What up, Screamers? Welcome back, or if it's your first time here, welcome. Here we dive headfirst into the new, the old, and the spookiest corners of horror cinema. Today we're going to be discussing the recent release by A24, Heretic. Heretic is the story of how two young Mormon missionaries became ensnared in a deadly game of cat and mouse when they knock on the door of the diabolical Mr. Reed, played by none other than Hugh Grant. Trapped in his home, they must turn to their faith if they want to make it out alive. This review will be spoiler-free, so as not to ruin it for those that haven't seen it yet. Now, let's get stuck in. The movie opens with Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, played by Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, sitting on a park bench discussing condom sizes and porn. Not what I expected, but an enjoyable opening. I thought it was casual and humorous and a lighter tone to kind of juxtapose the heaviness that is imminent. We then follow them as they attempt to get people interested in discussing the Book of Mormon. It's very...
Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal savior? I meant to, and then I just got really busy.
My first impressions of this movie were that it was very dialogue heavy. First time that I saw it, it was the night after I had gone to a friend's house and had a few drinks, so I was a bit tired, a bit seedy. I was probably not in the right headspace for such a theological deep dive into religion and faith. That being said, I still really enjoyed it. I thought Hugh Grant was hilarious. At one point, he says something along the lines of, "It may even make you want to die," and then he goes, and it's honestly like, it made me laugh so much. I laughed way more in this movie than I thought I would. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, but I did think that I needed to see it again. It didn't leave the impression that I wanted it to, and I knew that I just needed to go and see it again when I was more in the right frame of mind. Maybe when I wasn't a little bit hungover. So that's what I did. I went and saw it again, and the second time round, loved it so much more. It definitely made more of an impact. I understood the story so much more, and I was able to follow on with what Hugh Grant was rambling on about. Let's touch on some points throughout the movie that I thought were really good. I think that the cinematography in this was amazing. The close-up shots of their faces and their expressions was really unsettling and well done. I think the soundtrack slaps. They've done a really good job of curating a really well put together soundtrack that is full of just banger after banger. The Air That I Breathe by the Hollies is a prominent feature in the film. I think it's even in the trailer. I think the feature of that song turns from something kind of almost comical to something quite eerie and unsettling, just the way that they use the music in this. This movie is written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. Now, they both worked together on Quiet Place movies and also The Boogeyman, which I saw last year, which I was quite a fan of. This movie stars Hugh Grant. We all know and love him from many a rom-com like Love Actually and Notting Hill. Plays Mr. Reed, and he is unsettling. He does such a good job in this movie because he has that like rom-com face. He's very funny, he's very comical, and he just rambles on and on and on about religion and theology and philosophy to the point where you're like, oh my god, dude, shut up. But he does such a good job of it. He goes into this deep dive about the history of Monopoly, of all things, and it's all just about iterations of different things, like relating different strands of monotheistic religions to different versions of Monopoly. Essentially calling Mormonism the Bob Ross Monopoly, the zany original spin-off edition. It was hilarious, if not slightly offensive. I just thought he did such a good job, and I would love to see him in more horror movies. Though I will say this movie is less of a horror and more of like a psychological thriller. It has horror elements, like there are definitely a few jump scares. I would say there may be 2 jump scares, but I think that he does this role very well. I think comedians need to do more horror because I remember seeing 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams and thinking, oh my god, this guy needs to do more horror. It was the same with Nicolas Cage in Longlegs, because they have that kind of comedic face and that comedic timing. Bringing that to a horror movie makes them all the more unsettling. Sophie Thatcher played Sister Barnes. We know her from Yellow Jackets, from Maxine. She was in The Boogeyman, which was great. She's also in the upcoming movie Companion, which I actually saw a trailer for when I saw Heretic. Heretic, and it looks really, really good. So I'm looking forward to that. She is a brilliant actress. I had never heard of her before, maybe 2 years ago, and just everything I've seen her in, I think that she's fantastic, and I think that she's really got her foot in the door with the horror genre, and I think that she is showing that she can be a leading lady and like be a scream queen, and I'm here for it. Now, Chloe East, I want to talk about a little bit because I do not know who this actress is. I've never seen her in anything. She's in something called The Fablemans, but I've not seen it. She was phenomenal. Her whole demeanor throughout this film, her whole way of acting is very shy, demure,
very mindful,
very painfully polite, to the point where it makes no sense for you to still be polite. She's doing it as like a survival tactic. But it was so interesting to watch her character develop to this awkward, kind of shy, very, very polite person in the beginning of the movie to what she becomes in the end of the movie. And I think that that was a really fun transformation and journey to follow along with her. Another thing I want to discuss is the set design. I think that the way they set up Mr. Reed's house was impeccable. I thought it was really impressive. It was dark and brooding, but it also had that kind of cozy, homey feel. I loved the touch of the "Bless This Mess" crocheted sign on the wall. I thought that was just a lovely little bit of detail that obviously Hugh Grant's character had gone into to create this elaborate farce so that the girls would believe him and believe that this was a safe space, believe he had a wife. All of these things were so many things that he put together. I love the overhead shots you got of his house and kind of comparing that to the diorama when Hugh Grant's character is maneuvering the little figurines around. I thought the cinematography side of it was very cool, but I thought the set design side of it was very cool, and I really enjoyed those aspects of it. So long story short, this movie was great. It's a thought-provoking movie that requires you to pay a lot of attention to it and really listen to the dialogue. So that is my advice to you. I strongly suggest checking it out because I think that it is a brilliant movie, but I do think you need to be in that right frame of mind. Heretic, it gets a 3 out of 10 for horror and scares. Like I said before, I think there were maybe 2 jump scares. There's this one scene where a spider comes out of the pipe that made my friend jump so much that her jumping made me jump. Apart from that, there's some visually disturbing aspects of the film that might be a lot for some people, but I think if you're a horror lover, this will be easy on the scare factor side. It gets a 9 out of 10 for Hugh Grant singing Creep by Radiohead and doing the worst Jar Jar Binks impression I've ever heard, and it gets an 8 out of 10 overall. I really liked this movie, guys. Heretic was released in theatres on the 8th of November in the US and in Australia on the 21st. VOD was released on December 10th, and I'm hoping that that means that we'll get it soon in Australia, but you know how it works. We get everything so much later than the rest of the world, which is poo-poo.
But now that I'm up close, I see. It is dried poo-poo.
So I really enjoyed this movie. Be sure to check it out and tell me what you think in the comments below. Thank you for joining me. I know it's a cliche, but hit that like button and subscribe for more reviews. And remember, if you're ever feeling squeamish, you know where to find me. Bye, guys.